He was 35 years old with no police record and had been a member of the Jehovah Witnesses. Philip, ex-member of the Jehovah Witnesses, has abandoned the congregation voluntarily. Approximately 1.5 years, but it seems that he left in bad terms. The motive for the crime is unknown. The reasons that led Philip to commit the massacre are still being investigated. Last Thursday, the German police have received an anonymous communication warning of the mental problems of the shooter.
Those to whom the kingdom of heaven belongs.
In Spain, there are more than 120,000 people who follow the doctrine of the Jehovah Witnesses. It is the fifth religion with the most believers in our country.
Oh, give thanks to Jehovah for his loving kindness.
A religion described as deeply rooted by the government of the Spanish state
For their marvelous works towards the children of men.
Although in the streets they demonstrate notorious transparency, they represent one of the most opaque, secretive organizations in the world.
Jehovah of hosts has said,
The foundations of Jehovah Witnesses begin to shake at the end of 2019.
My name is Patricia Garcia. I'm 52 years old, and since I have been expelled from Jehovah's Witnesses,
More than 150 members publicly denounce abuses and infernal behavior on the part of the leadership of this religion in Spain. They are deserters of Jehovah. I was born within the beliefs of Jehovah Witnesses at the age of 12. Well, I was sexually abused for 4 years.
I suffered sexual abuse by a Jehovah's Witness. First sexual abuse and then with carnal access. It was horrible. I even said that if I throw myself out the window.
Jehovah Witnesses have been active for more than 100 years in Spain. They are known above all for preaching door to door and not doing blood transfusions. It is in the fifth religion with the most believers in our country after Catholic, Protestants, Muslims and Orthodox. It has 634 places of worship in the country, Andalusia being the autonomous community with the most followers. 117 halls of the kingdom, Catalonia and the Valencia community follow a congregation that is now facing accusations. I was raised as a Jehovah Witness by my father and mother, and I was baptized at the age of 17 on July 31st, 2004. I was sexually abused when I was 12 to 16 years old. Gabriel, who was a witness of Jehovah, claims to be a victim and to have suffered sexual abuse by an elder. It's what the spiritual men who run this church are known for. 4 years I was being abused by an elder of the congregation, who in addition to being an elder was the president of elders of the congregation, and he was also well known within the Kingdom Hall construction department, that is his temples. Here in the community of Madrid, the sexual abuse began in the same temple, in the same Kingdom Hall. Then he was transferred to a van that he had, and all the abuses were in his van. 16 years later, in April 2020, Gabriel gathers his courage and denounces before the court. He's waiting for clear judgment. One might wonder why I didn't report it before. It's very difficult to report it. It's very difficult to report these cases because the teaching that Jehovah Witnesses teaches is that everything be taken internally within the congregation. I also decided, because of the sexual abuse and the teachers, that we should leave this in Jehovah's hands. He is not the only one who denounces abuse. Sarai, a former member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, tells Focus how at the age of 18 she was raped, suffered sexual abuse by a Jehovah's Witness.
I suffered sexual abuse by a Jehovah's Witness. I left high school at the age of 17 and between to work with this man, with my attacker during the first year. Nothing happened to me until I was 18 years old, and from then on, I began to suffer sexual abuse, first and then with carnal access, that is rape. Then it was all repeated for a year until I left the premises.
365 days in which the woman lives with her attacker in her workplace and in the meetings of Jehovah's Witnesses. With 18 years.
18 years, I've had a friend with whom I married at the age of 23, and the following 2 years I decided to talk because I couldn't take it anymore. I already had nightmares. My sexual relations were not complete because I was very afraid that he would do the same to me then, and he was my husband. But even so, my mind suffered. It cannot hide it anymore. It decides to report these alleged sexual abuses to the elderly. So we talked to the elderly, and it was the greatest violation of my integrity that I have suffered in my life. That is above the physical abuse and rape that I have suffered. They came, 3 old people came to my house, some of whom eventually left because they couldn't stand it, and 2 remained. They had asked me everything. The old people asked all kinds of questions. They demand that he describe everything explicitly: who was taking off your clothes, where the penetration was. Yes, it was homosexual, if blood, it was horrible, but completely horrible. If I took his clothes off, because of course it was also important. Imagine my fear saying, and what does Sarai say? What do you say that they wouldn't believe you? To continue saying out of respect, and because what he would say and what they said is very aggressive, and it was her or he who took off her clothes, so it won't be such a victim. I was a victim, and it took me 4.5 years of my life before a psychologist to feel that I was a victim. The elders asked to release the decision after a week. They communicated the sentence to Sarai. Can you believe it? It was that week that I hit myself on the wall. It was horrible. I even said, if I throw myself out the window, that is, there came a time when you say they're going to believe me. They're not going to believe me. How do they know if they're not doctors? They are not psychologists. They are nothing. They are servants of Jehovah, as they say. Then the following week, he comes to my house and they told me, well, Sarai, that we consider you innocent because we have felt it. Even if you said that, maybe it was fornication. Because of course, I'm going to say that it could be fornication or not. We still believe you, and we believe that it is a rape. In fact, nothing has happened.
There are no guilty parties. It is she who was being judged for having fornicated before marriage, and despite the fact that the elders ruled that there was raped, according to Sarai, they did not take action against the alleged rapist. 3 years later, Sarai filed a complaint before the investigating court in Toledo, but her case was archived because it had been over 10 years old, the commission of the crime. Sarai filed a complaint before the investigating court of Toledo because it had been more than 10 years. The commission of the crime, they acted as authentic inquisitorial courts with justice parallel to the justice of all the Spaniards who have to act with the law, within the law, if there is a sexual abuse. When these people at the time has knocked on the door and be specifically helped, the door has been closed in their faces. Another one of the women who has been submitted to a committee of elders for having sexual relations before marriage, it is Patricia.
And I joined Jehovah's Witnesses because of my family, because I was born therein, and I'm from a Jehovah's Witness family. And well, when I was 25 years old, I was subjected to judicial committee for a confession of what is called a sin according to them. All physical or affectionate or sexual conduct with your partner, because it is a sin, they call it fornication, relaxed behavior in short. But the worst thing is that they submit you to the judicial committee of men, where they ask you all kinds of things. If you wanted to do it, how you did it, all the details. Despite the fact that emotionally, psychologically, I was very affected by the fact, because I wanted to be a good witness, comply with the rules, and they didn't let me. Then I had tried to commit suicide because I was very depressed, because she demands them. The consequences are so great that you do not see yourself capable of carrying them out.
For Jehovah's Witnesses, Patricia's sexual sin would not be the only one.
And they told me that the fact that I had attempted suicide was another sin, instead of understanding or trying to get me to have a psychological therapy, because they see everything as sinful.
We have contacted Jehovah's Witnesses who have declined to make statements regarding these accusations of sexual harassment and abuse. testimonies whose complaints have led to the expulsion of the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, but what it means for them not to continue belonging to this church.
Because they always get out of negative consequences, because it is a high level of mental control that they exercise over the members. So there is no freedom of thought. There is no freedom for you to change your beliefs.
Everything is very rigid. The moment they feel that you don't want to be in this group anymore, they will automatically, or this group will stop talking to you. It will close all doors. When leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, they denounce not only the rejection of the members, but also that of their families, a social death in life.
Currently, my relationship with Jehovah's Witnesses, it is practically nil, I say. Practically because all my family is within the Jehovah's Witness. I have not been working for a long time. My father, he came to me. He said, "Daughter, please stop calling us because you are not a good association." I said to myself, "Look, Dad, I'm sorry, but I have a responsibility like a daughter to call you if you don't want to block me, but I'm going to keep insisting. I'm going to go to your house if necessary for when you need it." And my mother tells me that on the phone when I tell her, "Let's go." "No, daughter, I can't because I don't dare, not even to tell me I'm not going to stay with you." So it's very difficult. I remember calling my sister to say, "Please don't take my children. Don't take my children. I need them. Leave them alone. I'm going to let you." I say even anywhere, but don't take it away from me. It is very difficult. This is very difficult, and even if they say they expelled, they're not treated. It is not true. They're not treated. No, they can be treated.
The spokesman for Jehovah's Witnesses affirmed that relating to former members of the congregation is a strictly individual decision and not an order. From 2 months ago, when my father died, in the funeral home, there were, I calculated, about 100 or 120 Jehovah's Witnesses. None of them gave me their condolences. The most painful thing is that people who were your friends did not greet me or give me the condolences. At that time, I considered myself as if there was no one there, but it was my father, but there were two, that it was my father and me. During the interview, Gabriel recognizes an elder of one of the Jehovah's Witnesses that is heading to the Kingdom Hall at the meeting point of the religious community located 600 meters from our recording point in Las Cruces Park in Madrid. "Hello, how are you going?" "Oh, excuse me. We are journalists and we are making a report. So we are interviewing an ex-member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and he has told us that as he is an ex-member, you guys have the directive of not talking to the ex-members. Is that correct?"
Yes. To the ex-members, we have the mandate of not talking to them.
The Jehovah's Witness has just contradicted the argument of the leadership congregate with former members of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Would not be a personal decision, but a mandate. So what is the treatment towards the ex-members then?
I'm sorry, you catch me in the wrong time. I'm very busy and I have to be somewhere right now.
For me, the Jehovah's Witnesses are a destructive sect because they destroy families, they destroy your person, they destroy everything close to you. To me, the psychologist told me very clearly to Sarai, you shouldn't be close to Jehovah's Destiny for emotional health. And I'm sorry, but I know that your family is part of it, but for you, that's dying emotionally. And it's true. He's absolutely right. But I can't because it's my family. So if they allow me, because on top of it, that it seems I'm begging for their affection, if they allow me to at least talk to them in private, even if it's by phone, it's worth it.
The testimonies like Sarai's has led the congregation to denounce before the justice the Association of Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses and several of its members because they see their right to honor violated.
It's a coercive sect with high mental control, although in Spain it is considered a deeply rooted religion because it seeks to pretend to be what it is not.
They are for me a religious organization that has sectarian practices and that does a lot of harm to people. But a lot of focus has access to the demand for the religious organization request, the elimination of the association, the extinction of all its publications, and compensation for damages. According to the Jehovah Witnesses, they are no victims. The court of the first instance number 6 of Torrejon Dardos will determine if the association of victims of Jehovah Witnesses has violated the honor of the congregation.
I tell the truth. I say what is happening and what has happened. That is, and what continues to happen, because it is not something that happened many years ago and the consequences are for life. I just want to say that any person who is still inside, who is afraid to speak, they have been raped or mistreated, or who simply believes that there are things that are not normal, to speak, to go to the courts, to the civil guard, to the police, to say so, and that the Association of Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses is a real association that cares for people to please do something.
While Patricia, Sarai, and Gabriel continue to fight for their dignity and so that their stories are not silenced,